Quentin, thanks for joining, man.
Aaron, pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I'm excited to have you on. I've enjoyed getting to know you over the last 6 months or so. And you guys have built an impressive company with Ranch Rider. Will you take a few moments to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Quentin Cantu, originally from Houston, Texas. I am the co-founder and COO of Ranch Rider Spirits. We are a premium spirit-based seltzer company based here in Austin, Texas.
Awesome. So you're in Austin, and I know you're in Houston, San Antonio. What other markets are you in?
Yeah, so we currently are in Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee. And here in short order, we're going to be entering into Louisiana, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, New Mexico, and Nevada.
Wow. That's impressive growth. Oh, go ahead.
It's been a fun roller coaster. It's about to get even more fun.
Okay, we'll come back to that. You all have a very interesting story starting this while you and Brian were getting your MBAs. Will you tell me that story? I think it's interesting for listeners.
Sure. Like most Texans, we were conceived in the back of a truck. No, I'm just kidding. That's actually some copy that we just got that we're really excited for about the brand. Brian and I met in the fall of 2016. We were attending a full-time UT MBA program. Wanted to grease our wheels in business. We were both career switchers. I came from a career in politics. 2016 happened. Don't really need to say much more. And so I knew I needed to move on. And I'd always been really interested in the healthy food and beverage space. And so met Brian. We were in the same cohort, so a lot of the same classes, and he shared a mutual interest. A lot of the big recruiters at UT happened to be Pepsi and Frito-Lay, and couldn't envision myself selling chips or soda because those things I don't consume, and it was really important for me to be able to get behind whatever it was I was pouring my soul into. And so given that I couldn't find any opportunities that route, I knew I kind of just had a knack. I had an itch that I needed to scratch, and it happened to be, one of the oldest industries, which is that of food service. And so Brian and I found a problem on campus, which was the lack of healthy food options. And so decided to start what was then a meal subscription service for our MBA classmates. And it was very healthy food with, quality proteins, greens. Everything on campus up to that point had been Chick-fil-A, Wendy's, Taco Cabana, and it's 50,000 students, many of whom are very fit and physically inclined. And we thought that there was just a market for it. And so against all health code regulations, we decided to throw up a splash page and start selling to our classmates. Didn't have any health permit. It would have been shut down immediately. But we did, a couple $1,000 that first semester. And what we'd do is we would take orders every Monday and Wednesday night for Tuesday and Thursday delivery. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'd meet up at 6 a.m. in my apartment to start throwing together 20 to 30 salads. It was actually a pretty hilarious spectacle. We'd go shop at our local grocery store, 6 a.m., shop for the day's orders, go back to my place where my now fiance, then girlfriend, was still sleeping. We would go out to my pool, my apartment building's pool, which had all the grills. And at 6:30 in the morning, we would just throw a grill full of meat onto the grills, and it would just generate a ton of smoke, and people would come out on their balconies being like, what in the Lord's name are you guys doing, cooking this much meat at 6:30 in the morning? It was so much fun though. But then we'd assemble the bowls and then deliver them to campus to the people that ordered them. Generated enough momentum with the meal subscription model that we actually ended up, the next step of the journey was scaling up, so to speak, was into an actual permitted food vessel, which in our mind, we're in Austin. Austin is like an awesome land of food trucks. And so that was kind of our next step in the journey. And we opened the food truck the first day of our second year. So in the food truck, that was also fun, a lot of work. working that a lot our second year. And
So this is all during school. Like you guys were getting up at 6 a.m. and then doing all this and then also going to class.
Yeah, it was wild. I don't wish that life upon anyone. We did not sleep a lot. We would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, assess orders, go to the grocery store, sling all the salads, go deliver them, go to class, assess the day's sales. And then when the food truck started, that 2-day-a-week business became a 5-day-a-week business. Then it became a 6-day-a-week business, and then a 7-day-a-week business. So managing employees, hiring, firing, doing all the financial analysis, and managing a full-time MBA schedule. It was funny. We would go from like serving a shift out of our food truck to going to the advanced valuation class next to our classmates. It was just, it was really funny in retrospect.
Yeah. What was the mindset? Like, was it, we're going to do this and then we're going to drop out? Or was it like, we're going to also get our degree and see what happens?
I think we were just super hungry. We were hungry to learn and learn with our hands. And we weren't content to learn entrepreneurship in an entrepreneurship case study business school class. We really wanted to learn by doing. And this was the only way we could do that. It wasn't enough for us to let's hypothesize about a potential business opportunity and then write an essay on it. I think we wanted to actually create something tangible. And the food truck was how that materialized.
Yep. Very cool. Okay, let's talk about the drinks themselves. So you had the food truck, you were running the food truck, but then you scaled that up. But then at some point you switched over to spirits. What was the transition?
So we graduated, and then our plan was to create a multi-unit brick and mortar restaurant concept similar to Chipotle or Sweet Green or True Food Kitchen. We had a lot of trouble finding real estate. And so when we did, we would, at the end of a long shift, we'd make ourselves drinks. And the whole premise of the food concept was no preservatives, no additives, everything completely natural, as organic as can be. And that same ethos would carry over into the cocktails we'd make at the end of the night. So it'd be high quality spirits, fresh squeezed juice, sparkling water that we'd actually sparkle, we'd carbonate ourselves.
And you were just selling those out of the food truck?
We were giving them away.
Okay.
And people started to come back for the cocktails. And so that's when we kind of had this light bulb moment, which was, why are we spending all this time to go into a brick and mortar, which is going to be a ton of work and, a little bit less scalable than a CPG product. Why don't we just do this? And so we started to do some more due diligence on it, started walking the aisles at every alcohol store, and noticed that there was a gap in the market for spirit-based ready-to-drink beverages. I think at that time we had seen the explosion in seltzer and White Claw and Truly, but we noticed that not a lot of people were doing it with spirits. And the only people that were doing it with spirits, those drinks were loaded with sugar, high calories. They didn't disclose their nutritional information. There was no transparency. And so we noticed that gap in the market. And then we kind of made the decision to do a pivot 100% towards the end of 2019.
End of 2019, shut down the food truck, shut down any ideas of doing brick and mortar, and said
we didn't shut down the food truck. We actually sold it to our general manager.
Okay.
So we sold it to him, and then ourselves, like in terms of our time and resources and capital, focus all of our energy onto the drink business. And so we actually launched our first product in the market January 1st, 2020.
January 1st, 2020. So coming up on, over a year now of running only the spirits business.
That's right.
And it's been explosive growth from what I've seen. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we were really fortunate. We had a number of things working in our direction. I think that we saw the right gap in the market at the right time, which is what I was explaining earlier about, the lack of options on the market that weren't spiked seltzer it was palpable. And so we saw that market, but we also saw the fact that there was a brand opportunity. A lot of the beer alternative beverages that existed on the market were either overwhelmingly feminine or they were super coastal. You could only see people in like LA or the Hamptons drinking them. I think we were aspiring to create something that, was a little bit more rugged or a little bit more like new Americana, Western. When we talk internally, about brands we really admire, we talk about Yeti a lot. And so we always say that we wanted to be the Yeti of the RTD aisle. So a little bit more evocative of a lifestyle brand rather than, a beverage that people might gravitate to in the Hamptons, something that, the Southwest can really get behind, a little bit more active culture lifestyle brand. That's kind of what we were going for. And, we hit the market pre-COVID and focused a lot of our attention in the off-premise, which is retail, rather than the on-premise, which are bars and restaurants. So that, in retrospect, we were incredibly fortunate to have focused all of our energy on that channel, because come April, the off-premise channel shut down. So a lot of alcohol companies that focused their efforts on the off-premise, obviously really hurt.
Yep, totally. Okay, so there's 4 drinks, I think. I've tasted, I think, all of them. The Chilton is my favorite, which is, I think it's just vodka, sparkling water, lemon juice, and salt. Did I get it right?
That's right. Yeah. So there's 4 drinks right now, and Chilton is definitely my favorite as well. And it's probably the staff favorite too, which is interesting. But yeah, our whole ethos is, our drinks are spirit based. So right now it's vodka and tequila, and it's actual juice, not from concentrate. And there's no sweeteners, nothing synthetic. There's not even citric acid or sodium bicarbonate, anything that you would find in most drinks on the market. Everything in the can is completely all natural. So that's a big part of our philosophy.
Let's talk about sales a little bit. How did it go? You kind of got, like, you hit a wave and it worked out with COVID. What were sales in 2020?
We did 3.6 million in 2020. So that was fun. We exceeded our projections. Thought we were going to do 1 million. I think that, a couple factors can probably be attributed to that. One is, I think we've assembled a pretty awesome team, specifically sales and marketing team. And we've become, really keen students of how to create a cult brand. There's still a ton to learn there. And, that's something that we try to learn every day. But I think that that's something that we touched upon last year to a degree of success that I think even surprised us. And so that's something that's definitely top of mind going forward. The other thing that we did last year is, really invested in digital marketing and our digital channels, kind of bringing to life this brand that wasn't afraid to, take stances and have strong opinions, but also poke fun at ourselves. I think we see a lot of brands out there that take themselves way too seriously. And I think that kind of comedic humor is hard to pull off, but I think we do it really well. And then the last thing is that we've assembled a great production team who's really nailed our recipes and made them something really special that stand out on the market, against the current competition.
Yeah. Cool. I want to get into the brand in a moment, but projections for 2021?
We're aiming for 15 million.
Awesome. Cool. So I'll send you this or check in with you toward the end of the year and we'll see.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
I hope you hit the same multiple on your 2020 projections.
I hope that too.
Let's talk about the brand. So I think you guys do this really well. The content it's funny, but it's professional. It's like a nice balance. It's like self-deprecating, but you're also like taking business and life fun and seriously in a unique way. I was watching the video of Ramonte. I told you, it's just everyone I laugh at. How do you think about creating that kind of brand?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's something that, we noticed as soon as we entered the alcohol space is that everyone that's in it took themselves way too seriously. I remember our first couple of distributor meetings, it was just suit and tied up, and people would laugh us out of the room, because it's like, oh, you don't have experience in alcohol, you work in a food truck, what do you know? And we were just kind of jarred by that. And so I think that, and we always poke fun at each other and poke fun at ourselves. And so that kind of personality has conveyed itself into the brand a lot, as well as with, a lot of people that we hire. It's, I think that we've just noticed that there's room, for us to create a truly enjoyable brand. When you think about drinking and like the occasion, it's like an occasion for merriment, an occasion for togetherness, getting together with your friends outside at a cooler. Like there's no reason to be super stiff. And that kind of conveys to our brand philosophy. And so yeah, I think that we tailor that pretty well too. And, we love poking jokes at our own expense when it resonates really well.
Yeah. So is it like, how did you build it up with people, like starting with friends and family and also starting with your fellow classmates at UT? Like, what was the building of this kind of following that you have?
It's a great question. I'll give you one anecdote that I think probably sums it up. Is when COVID shut down the on-premise, we were kind of looking at each other and saying, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because we just launched this product and we don't have a lot of brand ID out there. And so people aren't going to go to the store and search for us.
So this was like January 2020 or something?
No one really knows this. This is actually around like February, March.
Right, because COVID hit Austin actually pretty late.
Right.
Yeah.
And in January, February, March sales last year, like there were nothing to write home about, right? Towards the end of March and April, we started to see some pickup. But I think we attribute the big increase in when we did this program, which was essentially a free delivery program so that a consumer could just order it from their house. This is when everyone was staying inside, right? No one was leaving. And so our question internally was, how do we get Ranch Rider into people's hands? Which in the non-COVID environment, all you're doing is, liquid to lips in liquor store, right? You're setting up samples, tastings, promos, even at bars. You're getting their product into as many people's hands as possible. Well, that became a super hard challenge when COVID shut everything down and people, wanted to drink, but didn't venture outside their door. So we decided to do this program. And the first day we thought of it, we, figured that we'd probably sell like 3 deliveries. But by the third day, it was like, we had to tell our production team that they could not produce that day or the following 3 days because people all over Austin started delivering it. So I think it was that really powerful word of mouth factor, because one person ordered it and then sent it to their friends, and then everyone kind of just went crazy with it. But after that, I think we really started to see sales pick up in Austin.
It's crazy. You guys tapped into something. You tapped into something that it spreads word of mouth. It spreads like the message, and you and Brian's story of starting it. There's something about it that resonates with like our generation that doesn't want to be kind of the older, stiff suit kind of professional generation or something like that. You tapped into something because you have like, I looked it up. I mean, you had like dozens of thousands of followers.
Yeah, I think that, I think we're relatively young, which is also an asset, which I think traditionally in alcohol has not been viewed as an asset. Like I was saying earlier, I think experience was traditionally viewed as, the end all be all in alcohol. But I think given the fact that we're young, we can take a different lens or a different approach to certain things, such as humor, for example. And so I think that it's been a refreshing take in CPG and alcohol specifically.
What's next for the brand, Quentin? Do you have an idea of where it's going, what the evolution of the brand will be?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that, we're definitely going to continue to take this mantle of kind of like the new American West, that kind of brand founded by a food truck in Austin, Texas, with us to new consumers in California, Arizona, Florida, big markets like that. If you notice, a lot of our new markets are on the Sun Belt because the brand kind of is a Sun Belt brand. I think that's kind of its natural habitat. So we're going to focus on that before we go national. I think that the challenge is going to be that the category is rapidly exploding. So our, kind of the day-to-day and the week-to-week, what we navigate is going to transform. It's going to become much more akin to wartime than peacetime. Last year, the environment was relatively unsaturated. We were fortunate in that we were a relatively early mover of this category, whereas now I feel like everyone and their brother and sisters is recognizing that category's growth potential for what it is and is starting to enter. So that's why, the last couple of months we've been really focused on putting the war paint under our eyes, so to speak, and raising money and recruiting to make Rancho Ride a pretty talent dense organization.
Yep. Got it. It's a bit of a race to win this market, so to speak.
Exactly.
That leads into focus areas for the company. What are the priorities in 2021?
Yeah, priorities are definitely recruiting the top degree of talent possible in every single market that we're in. It's definitely a priority, and it's a challenge, hard challenge. We've learned it over the past couple months. I'd say the second biggest priority is, making sure that you differentiate yourself, which is harder in an increasingly saturated category. So continually finding weaknesses in competitors and, capitalizing on those weaknesses and differentiating your own brand. I mean, we've seen, probably 3 copycats in Texas already. And, the other I'd say the last big challenge on our radar is how to maintain a cohesive corporate culture when you're expanding so quickly and rapidly and geographically, right? It's like, this is an Austin brand. It's relatively smaller, but, with our growth plan, it's going to become a much bigger team, and how to make sure that everyone kind of is on the same page with regards to expectations, philosophy, culture, etc.
Will you hire people in some of those new markets?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's how to capture the brand and the values and the culture, even when hiring somebody in Louisiana. Maybe they've been to Austin quite a bit, or maybe they're from Austin originally, or maybe they just think similarly. Yeah. Let's talk about resources, books, tools, things that have been particularly helpful for you. You are like a machine. I mean this in the best possible way. Is like, what I see from you is you implement things really well. You read a ton. You're constantly learning. I'm curious.
You only see me on my good days. You don't see me when I'm pulling my hair out,
You're curled up in a ball.
Losing, 8 hours of sleep a night. You don't see me on those days.
Totally.
Which is better for you.
That reminds me of the hard thing about hard things, which I know is one that resonates with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say that book, I'd say, definitely changed my outlook on business. I'm so mad that I didn't read it earlier, and I could not recommend it more to any single entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur out there. The hard thing about hard things is literally everything that you wish you knew years ago. I wish that I had read that book a decade ago. If I did, I'd probably have entered business a lot earlier, because it's just so much fun. It's everything that you wish business books would be. It's like he opens every chapter with a quote from a rapper. How cool is that?
Yeah. And he talks about the really deeper, tough things that most books don't talk about, which is kind of the whole premise. Like, he talks about how to fire an executive, how to, structure your board, how to take full responsibility for everything that happens in the company, whether it's your fault or not. He talks about the deeper kind of psychological pieces to running a company that are not in the like formulaic recipe books.
Yeah, and how it's okay to curl up into a ball in your bed and cry. Just kidding.
Yeah, totally, man. I've done it many times. What other books, resources?
Yeah, I would say that Shoe Dog has definitely been another book that has really influenced my philosophy on business. Cannot recommend it more highly. I love reading books like that. But it's like an entrepreneur who started from nothing and made something, you know, globally impactful. So Phil Knight, obviously CEO of Nike.
Yeah.
Let's see. The other strictly business book is probably The Great CEO Within. We've talked about that a couple of times. I think for anyone who doesn't have any management or business experience, that's a crucial book. Very accessible, and it just makes a ton of sense. Teaches you about how to basically create and implement systems to manage your business better. Another business book that I'd highly recommend is called The E-Myth. Great book, cannot recommend it more. And then actually I just finished another book that isn't strictly business, but also crucial for, I think, any current or aspiring entrepreneur, and that's called The Psychology of Money. I would really highly recommend that book.
Who's that one by? I haven't looked at that one.
God, what is his name? I'll get his name.
Is it like Caldini or whatever? Or is that might be something different actually?
I forgot his name.
Okay. We'll find it. It'll be in the show notes. Anything else?
Apart from that, I just try to read the Wall Street Journal every day.
Okay. Cool. Stay up to date on current events so you're privy to what's going on.
Exactly.
We got a question from Mike Manley's a longtime listener of the podcast. What do you wish you would have known about the CPG industry when you were first starting Ranch Rider Spirits?
That you should meet with as many people as possible, because there's a lot of people who, it's just like any other industry, can be super intimidating if you're coming from the outside in. And, you know, there's a lot of people that claim to know everything and have all the answers, and the truth is that they don't know anything, you know? And so a lot of good ideas out there get batted down by people with decades of experience in the CPG industry. And I think that, you know, consumer tastes are fickle and they're ever changing. So I would say that my biggest, you know, what I wish I knew is that if you have like a gut instinct about a product, I think you should absolutely follow it, despite what people in the industry, what traditional incumbents in the industry might think or say.
That sounds very wise. Let's go to your entrepreneurial lessons. We've touched on a little bit, but two groups, Quentin. Somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, who's like getting their MBA or just has an idea that they want to be an entrepreneur. Somebody in that position to like, maybe they're afraid to go for it or whatever. Second group is anyone who's been kind of running a business for a bit, how to get to the next level. If you have thoughts on both or either of those.
So for the first one I can more readily identify with, and I would just say there's no time like the present. I would say that, you know, my piece of advice is to, no matter what it is, you should just try to get to the point where you can start doing sales, because as soon as you start doing sales, you take feedback way more seriously, right? Anything before that, I think, is still just an idea. And I think the sooner you can get your idea into something material and tangible and sellable, the better. It doesn't even matter if it's the, you know, final, or if it's the junior kind of idea to a much bigger idea. Like if you want to create this massive popsicle business, then it's okay to start with a popsicle cart. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? The whole idea is to start learning as soon as possible, because every day that goes by and you're not selling, you're not learning the amount that you could be learning if you were selling. So I would recommend jumping in as soon as possible. With regards to the second scenario, it's, you know, kind of the same advice. I think that I'm a little bit different in that I have a very unhealthy tolerance for risk. I'm not risk averse in any sense. So my message probably won't, you know, resonate with those that are, but with the second scenario, I'd advise the same thing. If you can't, even if you can't do something like quit your job and focus on whatever your entrepreneurial itch might be full time, and I think you should absolutely develop a side hustle to be able to do it on the side. Just focusing on areas of discipline like that can become immensely valuable to you over the long term. And like I said, I think the sooner you do that, the better, because anything short of that is still just an idea.
I had an idea for you. Have you read Good to Great?
I have, actually.
Okay, you've already read it. Okay.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Okay, cool. That was another one I was going to recommend to you. How can people find you online, you personally, and also Ranch Rider Spirits? If you want to be found personally, it's up to you, of course.
So Ranch Riders, ranchriderspirits.com. Our Instagram social handles are at Ranch Rider Spirits. My email is Quentin, Quentin, at ranchriderspirits.com. And I don't really do social media that much. So email should suffice.
Yeah, cool. Okay, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you coming on. What else, if anything, would you like to leave listeners with?
I would say to all aspiring entrepreneurs, the last piece of advice that I'd have is to get comfortable getting told no. Like the power of no, I think it is very, very relevant. Like, and you should seek out no's, right? You should try to get told no, because the more no's you get, I think the more you can begin to appreciate yeses. I feel like early on in my entrepreneurial career, I took every no very personally, and that's just counterproductive emotionally, psychologically, professionally. I think I look back on those no's and I'm like, thank the Lord I got those no's, because they made me have more resolve and more grit. And you learn a lot more from no's actually than you do from yeses. So that's what I'd leave you with.
Let's make it real, because I'm really curious myself. Like right now, what no's are you going for? Like, what are you leaning into that you're just like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep asking people. What are you doing on that front right now?
Well, we're in a relatively different position than we were like 18 months ago. So we get way less no's now than we used to. But like, when we were first starting out, we would get laughed out of, we would be easily dismissed because of a lack of experience in alcohol or lack of entrepreneurial experience in general. For our food concept, we had a small VC fund here in Austin pull the rug out from under us at the very last minute when they said that they were going to fund our food truck, and we had no other alternatives. But because they pulled out, we basically put our heads down and focused on raising the money that they were going to give us from other people, and ended up raising it from our professors. So it became a blessing in the end, because we got fundraising experience and we got professors behind the idea. And it's like, if that no had been a yes, then we wouldn't have gained that crucial experience. So that's kind of one example.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Okay. Let's wrap there, man. This has been great. And just hang on and we'll catch up.
Cool.